Hi guys, I'm live. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. So how you doing? Today I want to talk about fears, and actually I think I want to do a series on fear, because there's just so much to unpack with fear. And if I started it and went through everything that I have to talk about, we'll be here till Friday. So I'm gonna cut it down into bite sizes and individually kind of unpack some of the fears that I've experienced and call it a name, because it's so important that when you talk about fear, you just don't talk about it in general, that you actually give it the specific name as to what that fear is. So today I am going to talk about the fear of rejection. If you've been following me already, you know that I have spoken a little bit about this and about how I felt rejected when my parents went through a divorce, and I felt like my mother had rejected me because I couldn't see her and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not really going to talk too much about that today, but I am going to share a couple of stories. So my family are still going to hate me for this, but anyway, let's go. So I want to take you back to when I was actually a young girl, because I have been to different types of schools. I've been to a boarding school, I've been to private school, I've been to public school, I've been to an international school, I've been to all these schools. And one of the things that I can remember was, especially when I went to school in Nigeria, because my parents decided to send me and my elder brother off to Nigeria. But not only was it that they sent us off to Nigeria, it was we were going to be placed in two different schools. So my brother was going to a mixed school, i.e. a school that had girls and boys in, and I was going to a girls-only school. Yeah, I know. I don't know who caught the short end of the straw or the stick. Anyway, so the funny thing is that we went to Nigeria unaccompanied, so my parents did not come with us, and we went to stay with our grandma, because that was who we were going to be staying with for the length of time we were going to be in Nigeria. So, but the thing is, when I got to Nigeria, I was gripped by fear. I was just fearful of the situation, the surroundings, the circumstances. So what did we do? We ended up staying in my grandma's house. We did not go to school, because the instructions that my dad had given to whoever was that we were coming to Nigeria and we should be sent straight to the boarding schools, the appropriate boarding schools that he had assigned for us. But we didn't leave our grandma's house. So lo and behold, one day, as we were playing in the garden, as you do, my dad turned up all the way from the UK. And he was so determined to get us into those schools. So I remember during the day, we dropped my brother off first. And that was an emotional point, because I did not like to be separated from my brother. He's like the closest brother that I have to me. And we did everything together. And he got separated to another school. So we dropped him off. And I remember by the time we got back to the hometown, because my school was actually in the hometown where my grandma was, it was late at night. So I was thinking, oh yeah, my dad's surely not going to drop me off tonight. He's going to wait till the next day, so I get an extra day with my grandma. I get an extra day to prepare myself. Oh, no, Clara. You're going tonight. And literally, in the middle of the night, he packed me off to my school. And, here started another round of rejection, because it's well, why did he not? Did he not want to spend time with me? He's only here for a few days, so why did he pack me off to the school? So because I was fearful, and because also I was now in a brand new school, the school had started probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so people had formed their friends, and I was now coming into a situation where I knew nobody. So automatically, my thought process is, I'm going to be rejected. People are going to reject me. People are not going to want me. People have already made their friends, and so on and so forth. So in that fear of rejection, I realized I had to come up with a strategy, because, I'm used to coming up with strategies. I've come up with strategies before. So what's different about this? So what was my strategy? I was a very, very shy person. And I know it might not seem it right now, because I'm live on YouTube sharing my story and everybody else's. But at that time, I was very shy. So I wouldn't really talk to people. But I wanted people around me. So although I was shy, I did want to have a connection with people. I wanted people to come around me. I wanted people to talk to. I wanted a friend. And I realized or figured out that maybe if I start sharing, talking about my story, people might, warm to me. But then I also realized that the story that I had of my parents, of where we grew up and everything, it was just like a bog standard story. There was nothing interesting in it. Nothing at all. So I decided to make one up. Oh yeah, I made one up. And not only did I make one up, I made one that was like so amazing that everybody kind of just literally drew themselves towards me. So I started off with my family. I was like, my dad, he's an owner of this big, massive oil company, and my brother is in another school, but he's the best person there, and everybody literally bows down to him. I remember I was in a girls only school, so all the girls wanted to know about who this brother was, because I was like, yeah, he's the most handsome guy in the school, and and he's got this and he's got that, and people were like, oh gosh, yeah, you've got a good brother, can we get his digits, kind of thing. So they were really interested about me, and I did not stop there. Oh no, Clara did not stop there, because now I had got a sniff of what success was. I've got a sniff of what it's like to have people draw towards you and come and ask you questions and come and want to be your best friend and all that kind of stuff. So I pulled out a blinder. Yep, I did, because I basically said, and by the way, I have met Michael Jackson. Whoa, now, was that a story? So now everybody was like, oh, you met Michael Jackson? What was he like? Oh my gosh. And I made up this story. Can't remember it, but it was this story about how I was walking on the street and I suddenly met him and he spoke to me, and oh my God, Clara. But the underlying root cause of this was my fear. My fear of being rejected made me come up with this whole strategy, which on the face of it worked. But did it get rid of my fear of rejection? I thought it had, until, fast forward, I come in to do A-levels. Exactly the same thing happened when I went into A-levels. So I got to A-levels late because, I don't even know why I got there late, but people had already formed their friends, and I got in, and the fear of rejection came back up upon me. But this time, I didn't feel strong enough for any strategy, because I just felt these people, they know way more than me. They're smarter than me. That's another fear, but we'll talk about that another day. And so I was like, okay, the only thing that I can do is withdraw. So I used to go to classes, and I was very quiet in classes. So even though I would know the answer when the teacher will ask you what's the answer, I would never put my hand up. I was so quiet. I was literally, nobody knew who I was. And the time that people were looking forward to during the day was like their breaks, lunch breaks, tea breaks, whatever break it is. But that was the time I was dreading, because I knew that was the time when we left the classroom, we went somewhere and we gathered with our friends. And I had no friends, and I was just fearful that everybody's going to reject me. So what did I do? I retreated. So I wasn't this like, hey, come everybody, I can do all these great things and blah, blah. I retreated. And did you know, every single day that we went for break, I used to go and hide in the toilets. That was my place. I would just go into the toilet and I would hide. And I would hide there until the bell will ring, and then I'll come out and I'll go to classes. And I did this for months. And, again, I thought, wow, this has sorted my rejection problem out. But it hadn't. Luckily for me, though, people did, I did find a section of people that actually did want to be with me, and they became my friends, and I walked with them very closely. So, but it wasn't like when I was at school, because at school I had everybody, loads of people loved me. But now I was in A-levels and I had a small section of friends. And to be fair, we all went on holiday and we all broke up. But that wasn't until after A-levels, So while I was in A-levels, we all hung out and we all did things together, and that was good. But I still had the fear of rejection, and the fear of rejection has been something that has had been in me for a long time. And whenever I felt rejected, I would do something. And most of the time, it's either I'll project something, which I will be like, oh, this must draw you closer to me, or I would retreat. Until I got to a point where I said, enough is enough, because this is not helping me. This fear is gripping me, and it's gripping me. And then when it grips me, it gets stronger and stronger. So as I got older and older, this fear got stronger and stronger, bigger and bigger. And to the point that when I started with my businesses, when people would say something not so kind about my business, I would I would pin it to me and go, oh, they rejected me, Somebody would say, I don't want your service. It's like, what they're saying is, I don't want Clara, I don't want you. And, it was so strong that I had to get to a point where I was like, God, I don't know how to deal with this anymore, And in my younger years, I didn't know God, I was a Christian, but didn't really know God. It was just like I'd go to church because my parents did. And even when I went to A-levels, I kind of was probably the furthest away from God as possible, because, I did all sorts of things. Don't judge me. But now I was in a scenario where I couldn't really hide, and the fear was becoming so strong. It was taking over my life, taking over my decision-making process and everything. Even to the point where, even like you wouldn't open an email because you feel like it's something that's going to be negative and therefore another rejection, you wouldn't say something to somebody because you felt like if you would tell them the truth that they were going to reject them. So all of these things were the things that were happening to me. And I don't know about you, whether, you're going through fear of rejection, you've been through the fear of rejection, or you actually feel like you are being rejected right now, We will always find ways to solve it. But there's only one true way that can quench it, and quench it for good. And that is through Jesus, He's the only one that can quench our fear of rejection. Why? Because he has accepted us already. So because he has accepted us, we cannot be rejected. No one can reject us because he has accepted us. And that is the acceptance that we all seek. So it's not the acceptance of another man or another woman or even of your parents, as horrible as that may sound. It's not that exception. It is the exception from God, who he has already given to us freely. He said, I accept you, everything about you, every way that you are, every being that you do, everything that you do, every way that you do it. I accept you. You are already accepted. I will never reject you. Jesus came on the cross to die for us on the cross to let us know this. Because so many people had been led astray, not knowing it, thinking they had to work their way into God's love. If they did this, then God is going to reject them. God is going to take his love away from them. God will never take his love away from you. He will never take his love away from me, because he loved us first. He loved us even before, we knew him, even before we turned to him. In our sin, he loves us. When we do horrible things, he still loves us. He will never turn his love away from us. And when I grasped that, I realized, you know what? All the acceptance that I've been looking for is in him. And he's already given it to me. And all I had to do was take hold of that. Or take a hold of that acceptance and know it in my heart that, he accepts me. He's accepted me. And therefore, I no longer need to live in that fear of rejection. And I can talk to the rejection and I can go, hey, fear. And that's why it's so important to know what the fear is. Because if you don't name it, if you just call it fear, they're going to be like, well, which one? Hey, which one are you talking to? Do you know which one you're talking to? But I can pinpoint that fear of rejection and go, hey, you, fear of rejection, get out now. There is no room in this house for you, so get out. Yeah? Oh, yeah? You want to talk back? You want to say something? I can talk to the fear of rejection and tell it to go. And it must flee. Why? Because God has given us dominion over everything. So if we say to the fear of rejection to flee, it has no other option but to flee. So, I just wanted to share that with you. I know, who would have thought it? Tomorrow I'm going to share another fear, because I've been, oh gosh, like a whole load of them. I've allowed them to come in, each one of them. But I've also sent them all packing as well. And they've all gone packing because you know why? Because I know I'm a child of God. And you know why? I know God loves me. And I know that God loves me and he loves you. He's poured out all his love on me and he's pouring out all his love on you. And he wants you to know that he loves you and there's nothing that you can do that's ever going to take away his love for you. Don't listen to what anybody says about you other than what God says about you. And I also want you to know that the love he's poured through me is so much. And I've got no other option but to respond and share my love with you and let you know that I love you too. Take care, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.